we have still not heard very much about Arc Raiders. We saw some images that were basically showing, actually I'll pull them up, that were basically showing off the way that the game is going to look and their art style behind it and everything like that. That I talked about on TWR, which you should check out that channel. It's always linked down in the description. But these are some of the images that they showed. Just the environmental exploration. So this is kind of what we've come to expect out of the game. Similarly, this one. But then when things get wild, it's these images here. The red water, I love, like stained by copper, I'm assuming. This one is a crazy looking. It makes me excited for the game. And speaking of which, we have a video from Will from Work. Which is a kind of hilarious name. Will from Work, you know, he's at work. He's Will. And Arc Raiders did something unexpected, and I don't know what that thing is. So we're going to find out.
It's something that not many games managed to do today. It created an experience that felt truly unique. The prize sought by so many game developers, making your new game stand out is a very hard, if not an almost impossible thing to do. There are so many games released.
It's very true. Trying to make a new game stand out is impossible. They did it with the finals, though, too. This is the second time Embark's done that.
In a year, many of which are backed by hundreds of millions
he's a
of
buddy
dollars,
of Jack Frags?
as well as
Okay.
sometimes decades of fandom. To stand out, you have to deliver an absolutely exceptional game, and Embark Studios seem to have done that with Arc Raiders. And in my opinion, it's set to be one of the biggest releases of the year. The fact that you can say that with some confidence, based solely on a playtest, indicates just how impressed I was with the game. It seems to be a trend recently that the games that bring a whole new IP and a new world, and where that doesn't feel inauthentic and it actually works, this is usually something that's developed these days by smaller companies, much smaller budgets, and recent blockbuster games, they've often felt quite tired or repetitive, and when those big companies try to bring new worlds...
I would love to know what the budget of this game was. Like, I'm fascinated, in fact.
And things, they often don't hit the same. I think we often confuse this with genres themselves feeling tired. When a new big company makes a new game, it doesn't quite hit, for example, like a new battle royale or an extraction shooter that doesn't work. We often think that that genre itself is kind of over. I've even thought before that maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too old to enjoy this type of game anymore. Maybe I just don't get the appeal and I've aged out of it. From my perspective, the staleness of a lot of releases is more a case that games that get too big get stagnant and less innovative. This is often for good reason. Large companies with massive...
Dude, he's literally describing Call of Duty there. The game got massive with Modern Warfare 2019, and they just tried to do the same thing over and over again, to the point where every single season, the things that are released are remake maps, remake weapons, and redone game modes. He's 100% right.
Payrolls and shareholders, they feel a pressure to deliver a safe bet. They focus on what they know works with a little sprinkle of something new. Making a safe bet is something you can't really blame these companies for either. Faced with the decision to build something new that you aren't sure will do well, versus delivering a new version of the same product that has already sold millions of copies, you'd probably pick the latter given the choice. Often those safe bets, although they don't offer anything particularly new or push a genre forward, they do still sell well and do satisfy a core audience of players to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. In some sense, smaller studios like Embark Studios are free from that pressure that a long-standing IP
yeah, because you grab
They're
them on the
completely
ledge.
free to innovate, and in fact, often the only thing that they can do to stand out is innovate. They didn't pitch their game as a game like any other game, but instead offered something new in the extraction genre. There are of course similarities in the gameplay loop to other extraction games, but there is so much that sets it apart and really does feel unique. I was fortunate enough to get early access to the game in a preview event, as well as access to the playtest a few months ago, which, full disclosure, did include a sponsored video, but I just can't wait to play Arc Raiders again, and I wanted to make it...
Okay, if the people over at Embark happen to see this video, I want to do a video on Ink Slasher. I'm going to do one in advance. That's like a theory about the story of Arc Raiders. I actually have that planned in the next couple weeks. But I want to do, before the game launches, I want to do a video on the story of this game and the lore behind it. I would love to do it sponsored. If you see this, I could knock it out of the park, I promise.
Another video outlining why. I know for a fact that Embark Studios developers watch my videos, so I thought it would be nice to send some love to Embark and outline the things I loved about the game. There are a few gameplay mechanics that were particularly impressive. For those that don't remember or maybe didn't see the game when the playtest was live, Arc Raiders is an extraction shooter where players drop in either solo...
By the way, I am worried about this game getting lost in the wind because it went so big from the playtest, and then the playtest was gone. We haven't seen gameplay. We haven't seen anything since then. And now everyone's talking about Battlefield. So I am a little bit worried about this game getting lost in the wind,
or in teams
because it's a good game.
Players. and can then either search for loot, fight other players to take their loot, complete missions, survive,
I've not made anything on Ghost Recon. I haven't even played the most recent one.
It's pretty standard stuff for an extraction shooter. However, while doing this, you have to avoid the Ark that's flying, crawling,
the
rolling,
AI are unreal in this game, like actually scary.
You can go stealthily or you can try and fight them all. And once extracted, you go back to Speranza, a subterranean city where there are traders and workshops to upgrade your stuff and get new quests. Now, there are some awesome features that make Ark Raiders so unique. The first was that when a real player gets downed, they let off a flare. This gives you information to either push towards or avoid, and players can also take these flares into the game and let them off to use as decoys or set an ambush. I'm not sure if it's the only game that's done this, and I might be wrong in saying this, but that is something that I don't think I've experienced in a game before.
Sound design's really good,
was exciting every time. Small touches like this go such a long way to add atmosphere. Say you're sneaking around a map trying to avoid other players, and then all of a sudden a flare goes shooting off into the sky. It all adds to the feel of the game. I also had a great time trolling teammates by setting off loads of flares at key moments when I felt they were taking things far too seriously. In fact, I did develop quite a strong reputation for this during the playtest, for either better or worse. Secondly, the thing that really sets Ark Raiders apart in my mind is the quality and variety of the Ark enemies themselves all around the map.
Great AI.
There are a lot of different types of them, all of which had different strengths and weaknesses. Firstly, on the ground, you had ticks, these little spider things that remind me like the Flood in Halo. There were rollbots and fireballs, stationary sentry turrets overlooking key areas, adding stakes to moving around the map. Bastions, these massive, huge, incredibly deadly crab-like things that let off this terrifying noise when alerted. And lastly, there were bisons, these large spider-like things that, to our surprise, could jump incredibly long distances.
Like, how creepy is that thing?
Break, and he got absolutely pulverized from great range by one of these things. In the air, you had snitches, these little recon drones that let off a signal that then calls in other Ark to destroy you. Seeing these...
By the way, those being called snitches, whoever thought of that name, genius.
Scanning around influenced the way you moved, getting more stealthy in their presence definitely did add a lot of intensity to traversing around the map. Then there were wasps, the smallest of the armed Ark drones, hornets, larger than wasps with more deadly weaponry. And one of the scariest was the Rocketeer. This thing was absolutely deadly. It was a massive bulk of metal mass seemingly defying gravity up there and raining down misery on you. The flying Ark were particularly impressive. The reactiveness to being shot, the audio design, the inertia on them, it was all so good. And one thing that I felt worked so well was that when they were cruising around, they almost looked relaxed, but when they attacked you, they genuinely appeared panicked or fired up. That change in speed, the sway, the franticness, it was all just so good. All combined, it genuinely makes you feel
We've talked about this before. We've really talked about this before, and it was specifically with Battlefield more recently. It seems like the better a game is, the more attention to detail the game has. Like, for example, the one that I always come back to with Battlefield is the fact that when you throw a C4 onto a road in Battlefield and blow it up, it creates a crater that you can then use as cover. Just a small bit attention to detail. It means they've polished the main game enough where they can focus on these little things.
Something, scared and engaged, and ultimately what you want in AI enemies is to just feel something, to not get bored, and all the Ark definitely ticked that box. They all triggered slightly different emotions. The smaller, weaker ones were being annoying, the larger ones made you feel fear, and having that range in the AI, as well as the general awesome design on them, is just so top-notch. We also saw the Queen in the playtest, the first boss in the game, and we didn't even get close to bringing it down. Taking down a boss at this scale felt almost impossible. I tried multiple times, one time with a few other teams who we brokered a peace deal with, but to no avail. However, in that struggle, there's a challenge for the player base to keep trying and thus playing more, and I can't wait to get back and try and kill the Queen. Presumably there are other bosses in the pipeline too.
Iron Horde War Chief, thank you for the tier 1, brother.
Service interesting, presenting new challenges to the player base in every season. The fact that this game started as a purely PvE cooperative shooter and then moved to a PvPvE meant that the AI enemies feel of extremely high quality. It's just my theory, but in order for a PvE game to feel impactful, the AI enemies have to be incredibly good. I think about games like Helldivers 2, the enemies must be really compelling, and I don't know this for a fact, but it feels like this might explain why the enemies are so good in this game. Fighting the Ark robots is fun. It's just as fun as fighting other players, and that's a great achievement. And maybe, just maybe...
That's actually a really good point, right? And especially in a day and age where we're getting Warzone casuals, and it feels like fighting that AI is just mind-numbing. When you have an AI like this that actually feels rewarding when you kill them, having the AI in there actually makes a lot more sense.
Is because this project supposedly started life as a PvE game. Many of the mechanics and brands are pretty standard for an extraction shooter, traders and workshops, that's nothing new, but the addition of a chicken called Scrappy that you can level up to go and gather raw materials over time is pretty great. And I grew very fond of Scrappy, and I'm sure a lot of people who played the game can resonate with that as well. From my experience of Embark Studios in the finals, they understand the need to have iconic things within games that build that sense of identity. In the finals, it's destruction, but it's also things like zip lines, jump pads, and canisters. And already in a playtest of Arc Raiders, things like the Queen, Scrappy the Chicken, and the Rocketeer, they're all emerging iconic features within the game. Building these iconic features helps with building brand, and it helps you stand out. Think of other games. Gears of War.
He's absolutely right there. Like just take Scrappy, for example. That chicken is a genius idea. It's like one of those like little icons. They can now sell Scrappy merch, right? Like things like that people just don't think of. A good example, like let's think of different IPs. Like he's going to use Gears of War here. Think of Call of Duty. You have Ghost with the Ghost mask. Like little things like that click in people's head and immediately associate it with the game are genius. And that's just a really good one.
Or Chainsaw, Minecraft, Creepers, Halo, Battle Rifle. Iconic features are essential to
Halo,
the
just the Master Chief mask in and of
Games
itself.
without iconic features are just not memorable. This is one of the things that really helps Arc Raiders stand out in a saturated market. There were lots of things that felt unique to the game, and you can tell that over time certain enemies and bosses will become iconic things associated with Arc Raiders. A bit like how when you think of Elden Ring, you remember the bosses. One of the most impressive things that help make all of the above
trying to land on the rocket thing.
Visuals. Now, I'm not sure how many of the Embark Studios devs working on this game
worked. He landed on it.
DICE and therefore ex Star Wars Battlefront, but the way the light looked, it really did remind me of the contrast and vibrance of it all. It sort of reminded me of running around in Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2, which are two of the best looking games in my opinion that were just so ahead of their time. The different attention to detail and all the dynamic weather and different times of day available on each map, it was all just so impressive. And
that's smart.
It really did add such a good amount of variety and made all the different environments feel very unique.
I wouldn't say it like, so say for example, you take a map and add a rainy version and a day version. I don't think that makes it so that there's two maps in the game, but I do think it makes it so that there's like 1.25. It just feels different enough to add a little bit to the game. Like when Call of Duty does it where they're like, oh, we're going to add a rainy version of Cove or whatever. It's not a new map, but it helps.
Unique in all the different formats, and it just works
especially when
very,
it's
very
done
well.
right. And
the visuals also
right.
on the playable characters were really good. The level of detail and all the different things that the characters carry around, their weapons, the inertia of all those things, the shaking is something small but something really important. The fact that you don't notice that is probably the best indicator that this is done really well. The looting visuals as well were really clear. Just using a classic graded color system like other games, it just works. It allows you to understand if something is of high value immediately. So although it's not something new, it is something that really was a great decision to include. And related to visuals was just the overall map design generally. It was just so impressive. Just like I said, a massive sense of scale is something that goes a long way to immersing players in games, at least in my opinion. In Arc Raiders, the maps had that sense of wonder. Like when you look around, either in the massive towers you could scale or in the epic backdrops on the map, even though we only played 3 maps, was it Buried City, Spaceport, and Damn Battlegrounds, they were all so good in the amount.
I am very curious to see how many of those they have at launch.
The variety they had. They all played slightly differently. The size was different, the verticality was different, and each run felt very fresh. The sound design within this game is so impressive. The music, the enemies, the overall soundscape, it was just all so good. Embark Studios are building a serious reputation for incredible sound design. The Finals, for example, has some incredible music and sounds that go so far to build a sense of identity and immersion within the game, and Arc Raiders is no exception here. I mean, just listen to some of these clips.
Like just the sound of the robots, right? Great little cutscene. Really cool cutscene at that.
The last thing for me that really has helped this game stand out is the lore. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world where raiders go to the surface to find resources to help them survive beneath the surface. The fact that there is this secret underbelly world of Speranza, similar to something like The Matrix, it felt very immersive to me. Even though you couldn't walk around Speranza underground, the extract lifts,
that would be the only thing to make this game better. And if they do it, I'm going to lose my mind. I don't think they're going to, by the way. But if they were to make it so that Speranza was like this open network, kind of like the tower in Destiny with other players in it and stuff, oh my God. Like, that is the only thing that could make this game like off the charts.
Heading to the surface, they were just so great in creating that sense of separation between the above ground and the below ground. This, however, is the one area where I think the game could drastically improve and take it to an even higher level in my estimations. This is the thing that is my big recommendation, if it's possible. I just think that if you could actually walk around Speranza and see other players, walk up to traders, and just be generally immersed in Speranza, the underground area, it would just go so far to being way more immersed in the experience. Sometimes it's a little bit immersion breaking that you go from this incredible, beautiful, 3D amazing world to just like a few menu screens. I know that now there is some kind of like animation of your workshop, of the kind of areas that you have down there, but I just think it would be so nice if you could actually, I don't know if it was a social area, maybe like a Destiny where you could navigate.
That's exactly what I was saying.
And spend time there in a more social setting. I think that could be such a cool thing for the game. But thinking about this further, maybe I'm wrong, because the fact that the only explorable world is above ground, it does create the sense of separation between the two.
That is
true. And it adds a feeling of intensity to trips to the surface. They feel more real then, because it's the only sort of 3D explorable area.
By the way, there is a rumor that that is what they are doing with DMZ2, is that they are making it so that there's like a headquarters style area where you can go and see other players and go to vendors and trade items and things like that.
It's above ground, so perhaps every time you go back to the surface, it's as if you're being brought to life each time you go back up. I've been meaning to make this video for a very long time. I don't often do talking point videos, but I just really wanted to send some love to Embark Studios. It's just so impressive what they've done with Arc Raiders. It's so creative, and they deserve all the praise in the world for what they've done here. But be that as it may, what did you think? Do you think Arc Raiders stands out as much as I do? What did you like or dislike about the game? Let me know in the comments and leave a like if you enjoyed this video. And if you want to...
I guarantee you the comments are just all going to be people excited for the game. Embark is a golden age. They're cooking. I'm an Arcaholic. That's a good one. But yeah, like for someone with 92,000 subscribers having 67,000 views on a video, people are obviously resonating with it. And like just this scene here, for example, this is the kind of artwork and the kind of scenes that I think really do separate this game. There's a dog down there. There's a dog. They put a dog in there.